AJ, I see the shirt,
Yes, I had to wear it. I was like, ah, I'll wear this shirt.
the crop. Uh, well, to start, when you saw everyone's reactions to the crop top, full well knowing what was going to happen to Gambit later in the season, how did that kind of impact you, like having to go online and be like, yep, everyone just loves Gambit, knowing that we were all going to kind of end up devastated within 5 episodes?
Well, I didn't expect the crop top to have the reaction it did. It felt like such a normal, obvious wardrobe choice for Gambit that I was like, yeah, of course he'd be wearing a crop top while making beignets in his home in the kitchen. Um, but yeah, I mean, I knew people were going to be upset when I read the script, even without the crop top. I was like, people are going to be pretty upset when this happens. So yeah, the whole I've been bracing myself for like 2 years for this reaction because I know how important Gambit is to people. So it's been yeah a lot of just sort of clenching and gritting my teeth, going, oh, this is going to be rough.
Yeah, because I mean, I was a Gambit girl in the 90s when I watched it. And so then to see
Same.
that, I was like, this sucks. This hurts. That
Yes.
when you're, on the show and stuff, I always ask this question. Now I have to ask you the reverse of it. Is there a mutant that you would be mad ended up on the show now that Gambit's dead? That you would be like, no, but like I wanted Gambit to meet that mutant and hang out with them, but now they're on it and Gambit's not.
Whoa, what a crazy question. This is like Han Solo dying and not meeting Luke Skywalker, you mean? Like that sort of thing?
Yeah, where it's like you're like, oh
Where they
no, but
just miss each other? I
yeah.
don't know. No, not really. I mean, I do like his dynamic with Nightcrawler was cute, and I wish there was more of that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, I want Gambit to meet everyone. I want Gambit to be around all the X-Men, but there's no one specific I can think of that I'd be like, oh, that would be cool. Oh man, I'm trying to drudge through my brain of what I don't know. I want Gambit to meet everybody.
Because I feel like if he met Wanda, I'd be so happy because he would love her. Like I think
Yes.
she was in the original show, but I was like, I think I want him this Gambit to meet her because I feel like he'd be like, I like your magic. That's really fun.
Yes, yeah, no, totally. That would be brilliant. I'd be curious to see how this would, if yeah, how that would play out.
When I really love X-Men 97 just because it's like it brings us right back into the nostalgia, but also uses that against us. I know like there's been a lot of stuff where it's like, yeah, it's the point that nostalgia is great, but then it's not. And that's kind of what this show is doing. A lot of when you are in the booth and you're working on a character like Gambit, is that ever something you guys were told to like think about or anything like that? Or are you just trying to keep that love that people had for Gambit alive?
You mean as far as voicing the character and stuff
Yeah.
goes, or
Or like your approach while you were voicing Gambit.
I mean, I think there was sort of an understanding that it's nostalgic because of what it is. It's
Mhm.
already nostalgic because it's a continuation of the original series, but Um, for me, it was more so just about trying to make it feel like the original character as much as I could, but then also there's sort of a bit of modernizing the tone, or how everyone talks has been sort of updated just a little bit for,
Mhm.
modern audiences, because it's different. The original show sort of has a bit of a different cadence, and I think is even more soap opera as far as the deliveries, and because it's the first of its kind, so it was treading new ground. And yeah, I mean, I think there was just, once we got into the scripts and once I started getting more comfortable with the character, yeah, I wasn't worried about trying to make him nostalgic. I just wanted him to feel as close to the original as possible, but then also trying to add just a little bit of my own stuff, and then throwing in some Cajun phrases here and there, which didn't, most of them didn't make it, but I tried to infuse whatever I could to make him both a little more authentic, and then also feeling familiar, feeling like what we grew up with, because that's so important. I was so afraid people would be like, "That doesn't sound like Gambit," but thankfully, people were very kind and accepting of what I did.
Yeah, and so that was going to be my next question, but like you were you guys encouraged at all to like improvise? Because I always think it's interesting when you're doing a vocal performance and you're by yourself, and then they're like, yeah, go ahead and improvise, because it's like, well, you have no one to really do that improv with, so it is like a solo improvisation, which
Well,
doesn't feel as fun as like getting to work back and forth with somebody.
well, it's I think with voiceover, a lot of the improv comes from. I mean, I was acting against Meredith Lane, who's our voice director, so she would do
Mm.
lines and stuff back and forth. But usually, I think in the case of like Gambit or in this situation where I'm mostly alone, it's sort of just adding stuff to your own lines, just kind of adding a little bit of. I'm trying to think. Like I tried to add a little bit of in Cajun, I guess, dialect, adding the word "me" at the end of a
Hmm.
at the sentence. I'm gonna go down there, me. Was a thing that I would try to add, and none of it made it in. But just little bits and pieces, just little bits of flavor and changing it up, especially with, when you do a line 10 times, you start to just try to find other things or tack things on. So I'm not riffing in the sense that I'm trying to get a response out of the other actor, but trying to just add a little bit of life to whatever text. Not that it doesn't have life, but just
Yeah.
add a little bit more of my own spin on it as we're recording.
You said that, and I instantly thought of like the flair from like TGI Fridays
TGI
and Ruby
Fridays.
Tuesdays.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
like
Always trying to add my
there's
own.
like
I used to work at
adding
a
your own.
TGI Fridays, and they did not encourage flair. They didn't care, and yeah, I did have a Boba Fett action figure on my apron for some reason. I don't remember why, but I found it, and I was like, "Well, you're going on my apron." Yeah.
I love it because I was like, yeah, it's like the little flares. They're always like, make it your own. I was like, yeah, well, essentially kind of that same thing as you're making Gambit your own. But Gambit as a
That's
character to me
true.
is what's so fascinating to about him isn't necessarily like, we know he's strong, we know his power, but it is that he is in love with somebody who he has accepted, like we're never gonna touch, we're that's not gonna be our thing, but I'm okay with it. Which is, you like men can play that one of two ways, and I think everyone who has ever played Gambit has always done it like the right way, where it's like he doesn't care, he
Thankfully.
just loves her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where was the did you ever have that fear of like, okay, I have to make this man who is like
Sorry,
one
I
of the
have two
most
chihuahuas.
genuine. It's okay.
So I don't know if you
Normally I
can
have
hear.
a cat. I
Okay.
normally have my cat running
Well,
around.
cats don't bark.
You'd
I
be
hope.
surprised.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Sorry, you were in the middle of something.
No, it's okay. But did you ever have a concern of like making sure that that genuineness comes across in a vocal performance? Like obviously the animation is something completely different, but if it doesn't match what you were doing emotionally, then it would not feel as genuine and as like fans tend to like lean towards.
Yeah, I mean that's what's so beautiful about this is they really wanted it to feel grounded when it was time and fun when it was time to be fun. So, uh I mean, we just kept workshopping it, especially the scene where between Rogue and Gambit in the fifth episode, where he's like saying we're, just friends, mon ami. That was something that
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to make sure felt real and grounded, and he really was accepting this is okay. If this is how it has to be, this is how it has to be. And I mean, that's also, you're playing in the theater of the mind when you're doing that kind of stuff because it's all imaginary. So, I didn't know he was going to be throwing cards into the fire or to what degree, what that was going to look like. So, you really just trust the directors and again, our voice director, Meredith, just working with her and making sure that we're working in the same space, basically, because I didn't really get to record with Lenore, who's Rogue,
Mm-hmm.
for that scene, which is a shame because it would have been fun because then you have a little more sense of how they're gonna react and stuff. But um, yeah, it was really just a matter of sort of feeling out how close are they, what's the reality of this, how crushed is he, but yet trying to seem comforting. It's all just a tricky, tightrope walk. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
And you did get your superhero kind of like final badass line, which is like all of us went into it seeing that the title was Remember It, and we were like, okay. And then it was like, oh no, this sucks. I don't like this anymore. Did when you like read that, what did you have a reaction of like, oh, people are gonna absolutely love this? Like seeing just the setup to what kind of happened for Gambit to take down the Sentinel.
I don't know. I mean, it could have been, it could have gone both two ways, where it's like having read the scripts up to that point, I was like, these are really, really good. Like they're really, really solid scripts, and this is X-Men. This makes perfect sense. But you never know how an audience is going to run with something. And, in the same way that none of us could have predicted that Crop Top Gambit would become a meme, um, I was concerned, I mean, as much as I thought it was a really, really solid, cool moment and was very important and impactful, you still don't know how people are going to react until it's out there. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't until honestly I was really watching it and seeing it in the booth because I went in to re-record some stuff, um, that it started to really hit me how big it was. Because, you could read it on the page, but then all the stuff the board artists do and all the things that happen in between that I'm not part of are what make it special. Like, it's what makes it so epic, and all the stuff with the motorcycle. And I was like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I didn't realize to what degree how epic this was. So that's when I started to feel a little more comfortable, like, oh, this is going to be awesome. But again, yeah, it's terrifying. I've been dreading that this whole time, especially, going to like WonderCon and stuff, and nobody knows, and I'm sitting there, and me and some of the cast, because some cast of the cast didn't know that that was going to happen.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you just sit with that feeling of being like, oh boy, we're all happy now, but you know that there's this big devastating moment coming. It feels like, to some degree, what it must feel like being on Game of Thrones or something, except there's no book in the same way.
Mhm.
Like X-Men obviously have comics, but they're kind of playing by their own rules in this show to some degree. So it's yeah, it was hard to sort of sit on that and be like, oh, here comes this big emotional bomb that we all have just been kind of like smiling and holding on to. So yeah, it was stressful. I'm glad people reacted in a way that was both um kind and yet mournful and accepting and loved it, despite the fact
Mhm.
that it hurts. A lot of people really loved it, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Man, that episode also ends with like my roommate and I were best friends, and she literally kept being like, did you recognize what the ending reminded me of?" And I was like, "I'm purposely trying to ignore you because I don't want to think about it because it reminds me of like the Wanda and Vision stuff where she's like, 'I can't feel you.' And then when Rogue said it, I was like, 'This is some nonsense.' Disney properties got to stop doing the 'I can't feel you.' But it is, you know, of like the romance couples within Marvel canon, Rogue and Gambit are up there of like ones that people love. When you guys are like working, and obviously you didn't get to work with Lenore, but when you guys are like looking at those romance scenes, uh, did you ever have like, obviously you don't speak in that scene, but like looking at it after the fact, how did it make you feel like seeing that, like, oh, that's going to be like the shot of those two for a really long time for fans who love Captain Rogue.
uh yeah, sad. I don't know, it makes me feel sad because it's so, as a fan, it's very painful. It hurts, and
Mhm.
I don't remember seeing that shot because I obviously didn't say anything in that
Yeah.
moment, but I had seen it, a decent amount of everything leading up to that point. But yeah, it hurts.
Mhm.
I was on this other show, Voltron, where my character dies, spoilers, and just
Yeah.
the image of him dead was like everywhere, and I was like, oh, I hate this. So because it hurts. I mean, you feel very protective and very, you love these characters, and getting to inhabit them, it's a little piece of your soul essentially. So it feels very painful when you to see them go. Hurts quite a bit, but it's also nice to see that he got such a robust and well-rounded and profound episode, because there really is nothing, there's nothing like that before for Gambit. Even within the comics, I read a lot of Gambit. There's not a heck of a lot that reaches that level of epicness, unless I'm forgetting
Mhm.
something. But especially the earlier series, except for maybe like the Tithe episode where he goes back to Louisiana and his brother and all that stuff, like Gambit doesn't really get a lot of screen time. So it was nice to
Mhm.
see him get a big moment like that. So it's both sweet and, it's bittersweet because he gets this big moment, but also it's like, ah, darn it,
Yeah, you're like, he gets it, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Um, but I I'm sure you've seen these theories now all online. How does it make you feel to see all the theories where people are like, well, actually, Gambit's not dead. He can come back because of this, and like all of us are just trying to find some way to bring back at least Gambit. Magneto's like, we're like, he should come back eventually, but it's like Gambit is the one that we're all just trying to maneuver our thoughts around.
I mean, that's isn't that's grief. I'm doing the same
Yeah.
thing. I'm like, what if we do that? Maybe I don't know. He could. It was all. He's fine. It's a flesh wound. Someone can heal him, right? I don't know. Yeah, I totally feel that because that bargaining is where I'm at as well. Where I'm like, can we do maybe make him a robot? I don't know. Yeah, I wish, I hope, I don't know. I'll be waiting by the phone for anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I wish, I hope there's something
Yeah.
like that. But who knows? It's such a big moment, so I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, we're at the
Yeah.
denial stage currently. We're like, he's not
Yes,
dead.
denial and bargaining of like, yeah, he's fine. Just patch him up.
We
Yeah.
haven't gone back there. He'll be fine in the seventh episode. No worries.
Yeah, just Weekend at Bernie's him.
Yeah, that's what I want is just the Weekend at Bernie's version of Gambit.
How that would be and someone else is doing it. Morph can do his voice, and yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
What would like animate him? Because it wouldn't be music in this case, would it just be beignets?
Yeah, just the smell of beignets, like yeah. I'm trying to think like there's a cartoon like the smell where they like float towards the
Yes,
smell,
the
but just if you
Wile E.
bake
Coyote.
beignets, Gambit's corpse becomes ambulatory. Yeah, no, I love this. I want to see Weekend at Bernie's with Gambit. God, that's so funny. Sorry.
I'm always trying to make Weekend at Bernie's jokes, so it's great.
It's so
But
Weekend at Bernie's 2 specifically. So funny. It's so insane. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
but for a last question, obviously right now, especially, there's just been so many kind of like pieces of fan art about Gambit, which I love. It's like I can't wait to go to a convention so I can buy a piece of Gambit fan art. Uh,
Same.
like I'm so excited to be like, yeah, there's gonna be Gambit fan art. Has there been one that you've seen that you were just kind of like, this is next level amazing, and like now I'm in that echelon of like all this fan art's gonna be everywhere for the rest of time.
Oh my God. What pressure? Oh God. There's so much. That's what's so tough is there's been so many pieces that I get tagged in now on because I made the foolish and yet fun mistake of being like anyone can tag me on my Instagram. So if I go to my tag thing, it's just like Gambit fan art. I'm trying to. The memes are what have been killing me. There's this meme account. I think it's Punker Ducky that just creates these hilarious Gambit memes that are also in mourning, and it's now they're in mornings, and it kills me. Their account is so funny. They did one this morning or yesterday where it's like it's Dotson from Jurassic Park, and he's saying
Mhm.
like something like Magneto's not in the credits anymore. See, nobody cares, and and I'm like, that's brilliant. It's so funny, and I love ragging on Magneto because Matthew's a good friend of mine, Watterson, who's the voice actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, the memes have been. I know there's so much fan art, and I love art of Gambit, but for some reason the memes are what get me. I think it's because they're emotionally. There's catharsis to them. They're getting me through. But yeah, I mean, it's funny as a lifelong Gambit fan, being associated to the art and all this stuff and getting tagged in it's super weird because it's like I'm not being tagged in it because I love it. I'm being tagged on it because I got to have a hand in this character, which is wild. It's
Mhm.
like it'll never be something I'm able to absorb because yeah, I love this character so much and I've been lucky that I've gotten to work on with other characters like Han Solo and Marty McFly and
Mhm.
Figment and Gizmo, and now to be a part of his story is I'll never get tired of it. I'm never gonna be like, ugh, more Gambit stuff. Like it's an aesthetic I love. I love his arcade '90s style. So
Mhm.
yeah, people can tag me in all the things. There are some gruesome death ones and stuff that I don't need to see that. But yeah, just like fun Gambit flying around throwing cards or hanging out with Rogue. I never get tired of that. It's brilliant.
And yeah, thank you so
I don't
much for
even know
chatting
if
with
I
you.
answered your question. I just
You
kind of
did.
okay, all
The
right.
memes, the memes made it worth
The
it.
memes,
Uh,
the memes are my favorite art. Memes are a form of art, and I hope I got that name right. Punker Ducky is has been keeping me going, and they're so sweet and funny, and yeah, they deserve all the follows.
I love it. Thank you so much for chatting with you. Before I leave, I have to say, I saw my screeners because I did the junket with Jake. The first thing I said, I was like, that crop top. And then it just continued to get bigger. And my boss kept not letting me write it. And then it was finally like some conservative was so mad that Gambit was in a crop top. I was like, my time has come. You have to let me write about this crop top. And he was like,
So funny.
fine. write about the crop top. And I was like, yeah.
That's
But
amazing.
like,
It's funny because like I saw maybe one negative comment that then immediately everyone piled on it. It was like this tiny little leak, and then everyone just poured cement over it. Like it's if there was a negative thought, it was immediately buried by the millions of people. Like there's one shot of me just like in this shirt at a con looking like pretty schlubby, just sitting there with Gambit underneath it, and that went like massively viral by my standards, where it was like, oh, this has several million views of just
mhm.
me at the con. I'm like, that's wild. Like, I wouldn't have guessed that something that seems so innocuous would become such a big thing. But I'm happy it is because when I saw it, I lit up. I was like, that's perfect. That's Gambit, you know. Because he doesn't care. He has a pink plastic chest to fight bad guys in. I
Yeah.
mean, and a trench coat, and he throws cards, and his gloves make no sense. Like, and he's got that head. Everything about him is garish and bold and fun. So why wouldn't it extend to his regular clothing?
And we need to bring crop tops back with dudes anyway. So it was perfect because
Totally.
everyone was like, see, everyone should just dress like Gambit.
It's great. We all gotta like the thing is I think you have to like suck it in all day and just be like, all right, cool. You know, that's hard. That's the difficult part.
It's like it works, but again, at a cost.
Yes,
But thank you so much for talking with me. And I can't wait to see the rest of the show. I'm gonna miss Gambit the entire time, but
me too.
I absolutely loved having him back.
Me too. It's all a surprise to me, so I can't wait. Now I get to that's the upside of this is I get to now sort of go in blind. I mean, other than hearing little things from the cast just because from us talking, I don't really know what's happening. So I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. Now it's a new show for me." So it's pretty exciting.